Hello everyone, this is Menz here. Going to be playing the Oh-Ho here on Sand River Assault. I'm on the attacking side. Now, this is an ace tanker match. It's pretty fun. I didn't actually think this was that great of a match until, the Oh-Ho kind of surprises you sometime. Using the howitzer gun on this, I carry some AP, some heat. AP mainly for overmatching things until they switch overmatching. Heat can get you some lucky shots on, like sides of heavy tanks, stuff like that. But usually you just stick to the HE rounds. 910 damage, 75 millimeters of pen, so you can get some surprising shots depending on where you hit some tanks. But it really creeps up on you because you're just chucking HE out of this tank because the other gun isn't that great, the 10 centimeter. Um, and the damage just slowly builds up over time. So mainly how I've been finding the OHO to work well for me is just focus on staying alive, and I focus more on trying to stay far away from enemies early on and using my gun depression a little bit, and slowly racking the damage up, then later on pushing in. This match end up doing just over, or I should say just under 3,900 damage. I assist with a little over 1,600, and I block nearly 4,700 damage. The armor on this works very well at long range, especially when you're top tier like this, and there's only one SPG. But once you start getting 9s, 10s in the mix, I don't rely on its armor that much, unless I'm at very far ranges and I'm praying that they're not throwing premium rounds at me, or they're not like tier 10 tank destroyers. Now, this tank's very slow, very large. Um, One thing about the tank that sucks is there's virtually no gun depression in the front. As you see the gun kind of moving around here, you can't point it down over those two mini turrets in the front. Unfortunately, they're not usable either. That would be kind of interesting having those as usable guns. Not that they'd be that functional against most tanks except for like lights and mediums. Um, but more or less, I try to angle this a little bit. I over angle it a lot of times. Um, Now, the main reason I'm heading over this way, because typically I like heading down to where this IS-3 is, or going to E1 and slowly, clearing out this area, pushing around, and coming in from behind. Nobody's really pushing over here as far as, well, tanks go, but also a tank that can kind of spot and poke out. So if I go over here, we'd have a couple TDs, one being Anthony, who I platoon with, and this T-43 probably is going to end up going over there. So not a good situation for us not having anybody on this flank, because if they get around here, we're toast. So sometimes heading to a spot where the main reason I don't like heading over here, saying something like the OHO, is you're so slow, so you're going to have to push through here, which oftentimes can be very hard. Getting shot from over from this side, you can get shot from the center, you can get shot from in front of you. It's very iffy. And once you get over here pushing up, oftentimes you can't shoot enemies shooting at you because of the gun depression, unless you over angle, and in which case, they can hit you in this area pretty easily. Anyway, though, got to do what you got to do. And so far, this is the only tank that we've spotted, so might as well just keep creeping up here. I am exposing my side to here. Unfortunately, nobody's that way. If I had spotted someone there, I would have pulled back and reassessed. Fortunately, this VK, for whatever reason, his name's Smoker Snake, decides to push down there. And I'm like, free kill. Only because that tank doesn't have a lot of penetration. Has a lot of DPM, but good luck, buddy, for killing me, unless you get to my sides and I can't point down at you. But this tank's so large, I can push him around, track him, and bully him. So at this point, I'm not too concerned about him penning me. I'm just going to keep myself angled to the point where, I'm not straight on against him. Because the OHO had a lot of Japanese heavies, virtually all of them. have very poor side armor, which, as you're seeing here at the gun, I'm not pointing straight ahead too, because the gun only can point down more than, basically 0. It's like 1 or 2 degrees here. It just feels like 0 because of the height. And, you can't point down over these things, which fighting from this side of the tank is actually harder if you see the turrets are offset. So a lot of times trying to find spots where you're kind of approaching corners and you're able to utilize this, this side a little bit better helps you a lot in this. But, more or less here, I just did 4 critical hits on him with that one shot. I probably damaged his ammo rack, killed a crew member or 2, what have you, but, he's not too happy here. But, get that gun depression going off to the side, and I finish him off. Now, the enemy, for whatever reason here, decides to basically camp all the way in the back. We have a KV-5 over here already, and yeah, they're not in a good spot. It's still not an instant win for us, but at the same time, they didn't do themselves any favors. Now, what I was kind of trying to explain earlier. So we have a T-29 here. Coming up on the T-29, he's going to have shots, on this flat part here, my turret, these 2 mini turrets, even my lower glacis, well before I can shoot him if I try to go straight up. I see a lot of OHOs doing that. Even though you're technically exposing, this weak point, they could still shoot you here. And if you over angle a little bit too much, you're very weak side armor, since all your armor is on the front and the back of the tank. You're better off taking the extra gun depression rather than exposing more of your tank, especially because you can get shot from the side anyway, exposing more of your tank. You're better just creeping over, angled, and taking that shot, which, I utilize here. Fortunately, though, the Scorpion here, he kind of pulls off of me. But with this shot from this T-29, I'm angled just enough to where when I shot it, I was peeking over this thing before my gun comes up. But had I went straight on, I would have had to expose a lot more of my tank. But at this point, I'm trying to worry more about the Scorpion G. Just trying to stay in the free camera here. But with the Scorpion G, I was worried about him. But, I'm just going to creep up here again. And, fortunately, I'm able to get a big hit on him. But, it's really push or pull. If the Scorpion G had stayed up, I honestly would have pulled back and, utilized my gun depression a little bit more here. But more or less, I'm not too concerned about that Streb sitting back there because he doesn't have good penetration. But just slowly chipping away at these guys, which at this point I've blocked 2,500 damage, 1,800 damage that I've dealt, and a little bit of assist. So quite a ways to go to, the point where I end up. But fortunately, even this Yag Tiger 8.8, he pins me there with a premium round, I believe. Yeah, it looks like a premium or a very high roll. And finally, though, I'm taking a lot of shots from over this way. I start getting concerned about them, so I over angle just so I can actually point down and hit these guys. And I'm concerned about getting shot more from over there than I am against these fellows. And luckily, I get a little bounce there, but it's just slow and steady with this tank. Focus on blocking damage first. Lining up shots for your teammates, which fortunately Anthony's back there in the Scorpion G. They can't see him. He's able to just take shots at them from safety. So I wasn't pushing it because we have a little bit of a lead. Still 5 minutes left. And, just exposing, which I get hit by Artie here, which kind of changes things for me. But we get this huge hit on the Black Prince, combined with the Artie hitting me and basically getting that big hit. I'm a little bit more inclined to push up here now. But at this point, we lost kind of our advantage over the 1-3 line. and it's best for me just to dive in here. I don't have as much HP as I'd like. However, while the armor, I don't rely upon it in high tier matches, it is fairly good in a tier 8, which I'm lucky to get that big hit there on the Strev. But the enemy didn't do themselves too many favors down here. They really boxed themselves into this little corner. So really easy to take them out here once you get them stuck down there. But you know, at this point, it's like shooting fish in a barrel almost. You know, I do a little bit more damage here, but not too much. It's just it wasn't worth pushing in and dying when I could, you know, make sure I'm alive, and as long as my team's not doing anything stupid, you know, just wait for the match to kind of settle itself. Because had I pushed in, it could have been a domino effect. But the Scorpion G, it's better for me just to sit here, wait for him to pop out and whack him, than it is for me to push into him, take a hit, potentially miss him. You know, basically, it's more risky for me to make the first move. But fortunately, I get a big hit on him, and then Anthony also, you know, gets a pretty decent hit on him as well. Which, that's another little overlooked thing from the OHO. You might not be able to damage stuff with HE a lot, but playing kind of mid-range, even in high-tier matches with HE, you can track a lot of things and still get assist damage from that. So, not that you're spotting tanks, but you're still helping by tracking people. You can really rack up experience and some assist damage while doing a bit of damage and module damage as well, just by chucking HE, say even at mouses and stuff. Like, you're not going to do a lot of damage, but you're sure as hell going to annoy the hell out of them. But pretty good match here. You know, it's really a tough tank to play with the gun depression. You know, a lot of matches that I play, I'm playing in kind of safer spots. You know, it's really hard to play when there's a lot of arty or a lot of high tier TDs, but oftentimes having the better gun depression off to the sides, I find helps this tank immensely. Even though technically you're showing a weak spot on your side a lot of times, you're better actually being able to point and shoot somebody with a smaller target rather than pulling up and them just being like, screw it, I'm going to load a heat round and punch right through your armor anyway, and you're not able to actually shoot them. So it's just something I've noticed from, I'm almost on the grind on this tank, but even the tier 9 and tier 10 heavy tanks play the same way. Alright, so let's get these images up here. It's going to take me 1 second. Alright, so the OHO here, we have the first image. I actually forgot to put the image in here. Mystery badge, ace tanker. I was like, where'd my image go? That's from a different replay. Steel wall, high caliber. And yeah, second up here, yeah, easily I got the most amount of damage. You know, a little bit over to IS3, but I say easy because even though I only have 150 HP at the end of the match, you know, I was pretty well in control of the engagement for most of the match. You know, I had a Scorpion behind me, just slowly pushing up, slowly chipping away at them, and really they're only doing damage at me. So between Anthony and myself, well over 6,000 damage between the two of us. You know, I took about 1,550 damage. Yeah, it's pretty much spot on. So, you know, easily in our favor for our team. And then finally, the end, last screen here. You know, I hit all 12 of my shots, which is kind of rare in OHO, but honestly, you know, as long as you aim in all the way, and I like using the gun depression off to the sides a lot. You know, sometimes it comes back to bite you and people get punched through the side of your armor, whereas you might have gotten a bounce on your front. You know, you can definitely get some misses in this, and it can be very annoying. But luckily you have a ton of shells. Sometimes I just sit back there chucking rounds, even if people aren't spotted and I know, they're in that general area. Sometimes it helps out instead of just sitting there twiddling your thumbs. And then I blocked 4,695 damage, and I assisted with a little over 1,600. But blocking in this, like I always try to set up, to where I'm semi-safe at mid-range. Pushing in close with this thing, there's always a point in your armor, unless you're against, like a tier 7 or say like an IS-6 not throwing APCR. Always a point on your front where people can penetrate you, especially when you're against 9 and 10s. Usually in those matches, play it safe, stick with a group, kind of poke out and just get your little cheap shot in with HE. Maybe try to overmatch a roof from close range, stuff like that. But you got to play it a little bit differently against 9s and 10s. I like to use the HP at that tier rather than fall back on my armor, but you can get some lucky bounces. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm very glad I got an ace in this because it was kind of eluding me for a little bit, and I got a couple here and now, I believe. But hopefully this helps you a little bit with playing the Oho, since it's not the easiest tank, but surprisingly it is fun. I like it definitely better than the Oni before it. But if you haven't caught my live stream here on YouTube, I live stream here a few times a week. Feel free to check it out. It's on my main channel page, and there's also a link to a past live stream at the end of this video. Otherwise, hopefully I'll see you again sometime in a different video here. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Have a good day.